Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hoops HQ show. Seth Davis along with Andy Katz. Portal Madness is still underway. It's hard to believe, Andy, that the NCAA tournament ended less than 2 weeks ago. It has been a very, very busy couple of weeks. I think it's now got to be around 2,000 players or close to it who have been in the transfer portal. A lot of decisions being made, a lot of decisions to be made, a lot of players coming back, which we'll get into, but Andy, we talk to a lot of people. We follow this stuff obviously very closely. We have a very good perspective in that we've been doing this for quite a long time. So we've seen all of these massive changes and disruptions. Here's my macro take, and as always, I encourage you to tell me where I'm wrong. There's so much complaining, chaos, confusion, unsustainable. Everybody says this is unsustainable, and I kind of want to repost with that line from Princess Bride where they say, you keep using this word unsustainable. I don't think it means what you think it means. From where I'm sitting, Andy, I think the system is working pretty well. Now, it's not necessarily working as designed by the House settlement in terms of limiting compensation. Compensation is up. But basically, these players are asking for big dollar figures. And if they're getting them, they must be worth it to those teams. So everyone is kind of figuring that out. And the last thing I'll touch on is you've seen a number of coaches. I saw Rick Barnes say it, Dusty May say it. They talked about, in the old days when you did high school recruiting, you'd be recruiting a guy for 3 years and you'd spend all this time and all this money flying around all over the place and you might lose him in the last minute. Like nowadays, it's a couple of weeks. What's your number? Take a visit. Do you fit in? If we got a deal, yes. If not, we're just rolling to the next thing. So I think things are actually going pretty well. What's your take?
It's interesting. As you're saying this, I was thinking about something that, and I don't have the data yet to back this up, but I'll be interested to see if this pans out. I almost feel like we are going to see the fewest number of players return from the NBA draft, because I think right now the players that are straddling, that's a very small group of like, I'm going to enter my name in the draft and I'm in the portal, or I may go back to school. Because the money is there and they're looking at these players are looking, okay, here's my money. Do I take it? Do I run the risk of seeing if I'm good enough to be in the first round? Because if you're a lottery pick, you're in. You're not going to like see what's going on at the combine. So now you're talking about players like, maybe starting at 21 deep into the second round. Those are the players that are going to the combine. And it may even drift just to the second round, to see if they want to go to the NBA, they're done with school. But I think because of the dollars that are out there, these decisions, to your point, I think are going to be made sooner. So for the coach to say, I can never take a vacation. You know what? I think you'd be able to take a lot of vacation time in May before everyone comes in campus in June, because I think these rosters are all going to be determined by late May at the latest. The days of, I think, you're having to wait. Oh, is this guy going to wait till mid-June? Is he in or out of the draft? Oh, shoot, do we not have money for this guy? I think those days are going to be over. I would also say that we are seeing, like you said, some retention. Players are saying, wait a minute, I got a pretty good deal. Rob Wright going back to BYU. Silas Demery going back to UConn. And this is happening all over the country where guys are going back to their original destination after flirting with the portal for a few days. The other thing is we're seeing programs that maybe didn't have great years this year that see, okay, wait a minute, we got to be all in. Chips are in. West Virginia, Miami continue to stay at that high level. DePaul, Cincinnati with a new coach, Xavier. So these programs that you're either in it or you're not. And we're seeing programs that are, putting their chips all in on the table to say, we got to make a go for this.
This is now probably, I want to say, the third cycle through the transfer portal and the NIL. I'm just hearing less complaining. Now, there's, definitely griping about some of the sticker shock. But again, if a player if you're paying him that money, that's what he's worth, right? Well, he's not worth that much. Well, he's worth as much as he can get. The same thing has happened in the women's game. So look, I think it's been a net plus for the sport. I think everybody these coaches, I give them a lot of credit. They've been saying all along, I don't mind players making money. Just tell me what the rules are. So there's definitely a huge delta over what the House settlement was designed to do, the clearinghouse from Deloitte and the collegiate sports commission and all that. And that stuff is not working. Everyone's blowing through all that. So at some point, maybe the genie comes back in the bottle, but the way those compensations are going to come down is when teams figure it's not worth paying Flory Badunga $5 million. Like if you can give Flory $5 million, then you're not going to have as much for your other guys. And now if Flory gets hurt, you're really screwed. So to me, it's just very interesting. But I don't know. I mean, I just feel like I'm hearing less complaining and more execution because I think people understand how the system works, what the rules are, and then they're just doing their best to get their teams.
Well, here's where I do think the unsustainable line is relevant. If you're an athletic director and you're talking about your entire athletic department, is it sustainable to have the money that's going to football, men's basketball, women's basketball, volleyball? Maybe you have a big time baseball program or softball, or you have a gymnast or, hockey. How sustainable is it to have all your programs fully funded? That I agree with. Those days I think are over. And I go back, I was talking to Rob Mullins, I think it was last year, the Oregon coach, and he was telling me how, they lost their volleyball coach at Oregon to Kansas. And like they had to make a decision. All right, so how much do we want to pay that coach? We're not very good at it. They weren't sort of now they're in the Big Ten, the best volleyball league in the country with the SEC. So at Oregon, their track and field is world class. That program, you're going to invest in that coach. So you have to decide that's not sustainable. You can't pay all your coaches like this high rate right now if your programs aren't competing for championships because there just isn't enough money for those programs.
Yeah, the math is the math, and that's why I actually think that what you just talked about, the quote unquote non-revenue sports, the Olympic sports, those are going to be the ones on the chopping block. So if it's, if we got to decide between a $7 million quarterback and a women's softball team, you're going with the quarterback. And so I do think that is a big part of the NCAA's push with Congress. Like, why should Congress give the NCAA some type of antitrust exemption or carve out or some ability to change the law to match what the NCAA is doing as opposed to vice versa? That's the argument, because the NCAA is saying we are using these teams, these money-making teams, to provide educational opportunities to millions upon millions of young men and women who would have access to college and competition that they wouldn't have. So it's a fascinating time. Look, the attention paid to college basketball right now, the NBA playoffs has started, the NHL playoffs is about to start. We got the NFL draft coming up. Major League Baseball is underway. This is normally the time when college basketball goes completely dark. And because of all this and the portal and free agency, high attention on college basketball, I think that's a good thing. Another good thing is that the Hoops HQ show is going to welcome in former Syracuse coach Jim Boeheim when we come right back after this. And welcome back to the Hoops HQ show, everybody. Seth Davis and Andy Katz, and we are joined by a very familiar face in the world of college basketball, Naismith Hall of Famer himself, Jim Boeheim. Call him the former coach of Syracuse, but I think you're pretty much the permanent fixture there, for better and worse, and everything in between. But we're grateful that you took time out of your golf lessons, your life of leisure, all the time you spend solving the world's problems to talk to me and Andy. Let's jump right in, Jim. Obviously, tough transition time right now for Syracuse. Been a rough couple of years under Adrian Autry. What would be your diagnosis for the problems that the program had with Red as the coach? And what's your hope that things can be different now with Jerry McNamara?
Well, basically, we never adjusted at Syracuse to the price that had to be paid to get players, and Adrian didn't have enough money to get the players you have to win in the ACC. I mean, the prices have gone from 5 to 10 to 15 now, might even be 20 in some cases in our league. And if somebody's spending 15 or 17 and you're spending 6, you're not going to be competitive. And that's basically what happened here. I think Jerry coming in, they realize what they have to do. There's going to be more money provided for NIL. And, he's done a really good coaching job at Siena, really good. He had injuries. He had to change his defense. He had to change his lineup. He had 2 major injuries this year, and still, got the NCAA tournament and obviously gave Duke all they could handle. So he's prepared, but I think the money angle is something that, it's just there. I mean, you might be able to sneak out a good team with 7 or 8 million, but you're going to have to be lucky. And at 10 now, that might be enough, but it's rapidly going to 15, and there's no end in sight because we have no cap, we have no contracts, no really regulations, and we were pro league with no regulations. How'd you like to be, Giannis now free agent? You can go any team you want in the league with no compensation. He probably get about 200 or 300 million at least. So that's what college basketball is, and the price is going up. It's radically gone up from what I've seen already this year. From guys getting a million, getting 2, 3. The good players getting 2 or 3, and the really good players might get 5. So that's where we are, and you have to adjust to that. And uh, Jerry's got a great staff, and he's got a good start to recruiting. He's got some fundamentally really sound players, and I think he'll finish up with a good class.
So, Jim, we don't know what we didn't know because it's hard to project, what would have happened had, Jerry been it versus Red and all that. It just always seems that if it's the coach after the coach who replaces the legend like yourself and many other cases, that coach is always in a better position because they learn the lessons, as you're just saying. In this case, it's the money. But how much do you think it benefited Jerry, we're armchair quarterbacking now, that he was able to run his own program, to deal with all this adversity as the head coach, to get to the NCAA tournament, to deal with, a 16-1 and almost win it. All those things setting up to now being the head coach at his alma mater, in a different stage of life and career now than, a few years ago. How much better off is he that all that has occurred?
Well, it's definitely better for him. He's got 2 years of coaching experience and making adjustments and turning the program completely around. It was at the bottom. So we're not at the bottom, we're not where we want to be, but we're certainly not at rock bottom. So I think that experience will help him. The money will make a difference. Those 2 factors are, I think, what you have to look at. I think the schedule last year, you never want to start out in a tournament where you lose 3 games. And that's what we did. You don't want to go out and play Kansas, Houston, and Iowa State, 3 teams that were in the top 5 at one point or another, and almost beat Houston and Kansas. But it just was never enough. We just didn't have enough weapons, and I think we've learned that lesson, and I think we'll be better for it.
So, I want to ask you about a situation that happened with this past season at Syracuse, and that was Kai and Anthony, Carmelo's son, and Carmelo being there in a world of social media where things get out that wouldn't have otherwise gotten out. And I just wanted kind of your take and your insight into that situation, partly because, of course, you coached Carmelo and you know him quite well. His name is on the practice facility, so he's been very good to you and Syracuse and college basketball in general. But also, you coached your sons at Syracuse, Jimmy and Buddy. So you know what it's like to be a dad in that dynamic. So I'm curious, first of all, if you had any conversations with Carmelo through all that, and basically, what's the best way to manage that? And we should add, by the way, that Kyan has said he's coming back as a sophomore. Obviously, Carmelo played with GMAC, so it's all well and good, but it's been kind of an interesting situation. What's your take?
Well, I got to give you a little background. When Jimmy was at Cornell his freshman sophomore year, he wasn't playing a lot. And I like their coach. He's a really great coach. I think he's moved on down to William and Mary, Brian Earl. I didn't agree with what he was doing. I'm a father. I said, well, Jimmy's better than that guy. And I might have been right or wrong, but, the father is always going to think his son's going to play. Trust me. Melo was good about it. I think he was disappointed. Cayenne Anthony, I'll give you my evaluation, is a guy we used to get, play a little bit, and by his junior year, he's really good, senior year, really good. That's what most players are. In today's world, that doesn't work because when that freshman goes out there, he's playing against seniors. So he's going out there and playing against seniors. And you can't win when you do that. So he needs to get stronger. He needs to improve his shot. He's a good offensive player. He needs to shoot the ball better. And defensively, he's got to get better. My son's in the G League, and he couldn't get to the NBA and he was struggling in the G League because his defense was bad. He got better second year, third year. He's had 2 really good years in the G League. But Cayenne has to improve defensively. He's a really good offensive player. He gets in the lane, makes plays. He's got to be able to make his 3 consistently. He shot 56% from the foul line. Well, you're not going to play if you're playing because you're an offensive player and that's what your percentages are. It's going to be tough to play. And I think Red was in a position where he really had to play. They didn't have a lot of guys. I think Jerry's going to have got a lot more guys, and looking at what the recruiting looks like. And so he's going to have to improve. And I think Carmelo will look at that, but he's a father. If I did something to Buddy or Jimmy that my wife didn't like, their mother didn't like, I heard about it. That's just the way it works. Parents are their son's the best, but I'm hoping it works out. He can be a really good offensive player. You look at a kid like that left Syracuse, Quadir Copeland. He struggled here. I had him. He struggled. I played him, but he was turnover prone. Then he went to McNeese State, almost got booted there, but he got going. He had a decent year, but this year, his senior year, he's a good player. He's a top 2-3 team player in the league, because some guys, it just takes a little longer. Chris Bell had a really good year at Cal this year. He struggled for a couple of years to get to that point. That's just the way it is with some guys. There's very few freshmen in today's world. Freshmen used to come in and play against other freshmen. Now freshmen come in and they're playing against juniors and seniors or 5th-year players. That's a lot to ask from a freshman who's, the top 10 or 20 freshmen can do it, but it's hard for just a normally pretty good freshman coming in to be able to step in right away. But that gap, that year difference how much you improve between your freshman and sophomore year, now that's up to the player. Get stronger, get your shot better. You take care of those things and you'll be fine.
All right, wait, Seth, I got to go back a little history here with Jim here, in that I said this on the air during the tournament. I referenced 85 Big East, and that time, because I grew up in the BC era. My dad was a professor there, so I lived it. I was in high school then, the Big East in the mid-'80s. But Jim, you lived it. You coached it. Educate our youth. How good was 85 Big East, that 85 to 87? We had 3 in the Final Four in 85. You guys were in the Final Four in 87. How good was it?
Well, it was good because everybody had juniors and seniors, because we all had veteran teams. That's not the case today. It's a different veteran team. They're not guys that play together, but they're veterans. In those days, these guys played together for 3 or 4 years. You had Patrick Ewing 4 years. And, with the guys he's with, really good players. We had Derek Coleman, Ronnie Cycli, and Sherman Douglas, Stevie Thompson together for 4 years. So it was just different. It was really good basketball. The top teams were better probably than the bottom teams for the most part. And there was a clear distinction between the top teams in the country and the rest. Today's world, there's not that clear distinction between the top teams. Maybe in Michigan or in Arizona, maybe, but like a lot of other teams were really good this year. But those years, were great years. The SEC hadn't gotten going. The Big Ten was okay, but it was the Big East and the ACC. And we got ahead of them. They had, I think, 3 teams in the tournament one year, and we had 11. So those teams adjusted. They got better to catch up. And then the money factor came in, and schools that had a lot of money now were able to use that money, because those SEC schools always had money. They put it into buildings. They had $100 million facilities there. Now they took that $100 million that they're getting in, and they're just putting it into their teams in most cases. And that's the difference today. But the Big East, it was a special time, and it was. We were worried every day of winning a game in that league. Trust me.
Yeah, we're gonna roll in the video of you throwing the chair at Madison Square Garden, losing your mind, because people seeing you as like this calm, kindly guy. They didn't know, that you were Dan Hurley before Dan Hurley. Okay, last question.
No, not that bad.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. There's only one Dan Hurley.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. I want to ask you your all-time Syracuse starting five. My version of that is your top five all-time players.
Yeah.
Andy's version is to create the best team of
Right.
pieces that fit together. So which would you prefer to answer?
You know
What's
that
going to get you
commercial when
in
the
less
guy-
trouble?
You know the commercial that the guy's talking to his wife, and she says, "If you could have A, me," or he goes B. You know how he does that? Well, with you two guys, I'm going to go C. I don't like either one of your versions. So I never pick the best version. You guys do that. It's like my family. I have 4 kids. You think I'm going to rate them? You think if you tell me I have to pick 2? If I pick 2, my wife would kill me. And if I pick 5 here and don't put Derek Coleman in, he'll kill me. So, I was lucky. I had a lot of really, really good players. I mean, I could pick 10 guys that are just great players. And, that's why I coached for 47 years. I had a lot of great players. You get players and you try to get them to play together, but it takes talent to win. That's as simple as it can be. And I mean, Pearl Washington, the most exciting player I ever coached, and probably the most exciting player I ever watched play. Maybe Calvin Murphy was in the same era, but just for true, pure excitement. I was just happy I got to coach him. I almost sat there and watched him some nights. If we had a lead, I'd just sit and watch him some nights. But I was lucky. I had these great players. And Carmelo, won the whole thing for us. So he's always going to be there, a special place for me. And he's given back to our school. And I'm praying that his son really steps it up and plays well. That's what I'm hoping for.
All right. Well, the easy answer is your favorite 2 are Jimmy and Buddy. So we'll let you we'll let you off the hook.
Well, but
so,
Seth, I'm curious.
Yes, Andy.
Which one do you like better? Picking a team or picking 5 all-stars? Not for you, but just in general.
I think if I had to pick 5, I would try to pick a team. I would try to pick position, but 2 forwards, 2 guards, in a center. That's what I would pick. And I mean, the problem is I have Roosevelt Bowie and Ronnie Cycli at center, and at forward I got Billy Owens, Derek Coleman. I got John Wallace, I got Carmelo Anthony. At guard I got Pearl Washington, Sherman Douglas. I got Lawrence Bowden. I got Jerry McNamara. That's 10. I mean, I didn't even think about it. And the better one of all of them was Dave Bing. So I mean, he was better than all those.
Bing. Well, thanks for joining us on the Hoops HQ show.
Thank you, Jim.
Always great to catch up with you. Look, I see you on TV. You're in the media now, so we'll be calling you plenty and getting your insights. You haven't lost a game in quite some time. So thanks for taking the time to join us.
A lot of fun being here.
Thank you.
Take it easy, guys.
All right. That's going to wrap it up on the Hoops HQ show. Thanks again to Jim Boeheim for joining us. Tons of coverage still to come. Please go over to hoopshq.com. We've got all the transfer portal, NBA draft, men's and women's, everything you could possibly look for is there. You're a huge college basketball fan, and we want Hoops HQ to be the place that you go to for your college basketball information and insight. For Andy Katz, I'm Seth Davis. Thanks for watching the Hoops HQ show.